Yo, welcome back everybody. I hope you guys are doing well as always. For this week's video, I felt like making some LIL Uzi type of stuff. My favorite types of LIL Uzi songs are either like the super melodic, kind of almost virtual leaning ones, or the like futuristic glow type of ones. So I made two of those kind of beats and I'm going to break both of them down in today's video. So really quick before we get into this video, I just want to say that the Reservoir Drum Kit is officially live right now. It dropped on Friday and so far I've seen a lot of good feedback on it. Again, I used some of the drum sounds for both of the beats today, so you guys are going to see a little bit of a preview. So if you guys end up seeing some sounds that you like, definitely feel free to check it out. All the links and stuff will be in the description below. And there is a sale running. It actually ends the day you're watching this video. It'll be over by midnight. So definitely take advantage of that deal if you want it. I'm definitely going to be running some more like promos and stuff like that in the future. So if you're ever interested on like when I do sales and stuff, I either mention them in these videos or I post about them on Instagram. So definitely follow me over there if you aren't already. So yeah, enough of that little short ad. Without further ado, this is how to make beats for LIL Uzi Vert. All right, so like I said in the intro, I'm gonna split this into two different beats. This first one is way more like melodic, just like super heavy on the like plucky rhythms and stuff like that. And then the second beat will be kind of like the futuristic glow, and you'll hear a preview of that later on. So right off the rip to start this beat, we're gonna be at 140 BPM. And of course I chose this kind of mallet sound, just a really good foundational sound. You can use like mallets, plucks, bells, any sort of just super like short release type of sound is good for these melodies. So I have the names of all these one shots and where they're from, and this first one is the mallet mellow from the Sunboy and Sharkboy Shiva one shot kit, and this is the pattern that I drew down. We are working in, I believe, either F sharp major or A sharp minor. They share a lot of the same notes. I'm not super heavy into music theory, so I couldn't really tell you like exactly the key. Let me know in the comments if you guys are super familiar with music theory or whatnot, but basically just started at this F sharp and built my chords up, and then went to the A sharp, built the chords, G sharp, built the chords. And if you guys don't know how to build chords, basically you just take the first note and you skip every other note that's in the scale. So yeah, with that one shot and this MIDI, we're left with this. Super rhythmic, super bouncy, almost like a little tropical feel. For these LIL Uzi beats, you tend to hear a lot of these like super fast, repetitive notes. So that's what I did with these first initial here, as kind of like part of the top line almost. So this next sound we got is coming from a Chemix kit, and this is the Mallet Childish Kalimba, and it's from, like I said, the Chemix Ultimate One Shot Collection, and it's in the extras folder. Pretty much another kind of plucky rhythm pattern to like accent the original MIDI. All right, so this next sound, I used this cloud synth, and this is from the Based One and Pilgrim Genesis one-shot kit. And I used this to kind of fill out the melody a little bit, just kind of add some more like body to it. Because before, it was a lot of just like kind of plucks, which don't really have a lot of release, so it can make the melody feel a little bit like empty. So just adding this kind of chord layer really just fills it out. And that's really all it is just the chords from the first MIDI just extended out. All right, then the fourth sound I added, I just wanted to get the bass in there so I could get just kind of a feel of the low end. So like I always do, I just copy the root notes of whatever the original MIDI had, which is these three notes, the F sharp, A sharp, and G sharp. For this one shot, I'm using another from the Based One and Pilgrim Genesis kit, and it's the Bass Likely. Then we got this lead, and what I love to do with these kinds of leads is to add glide notes. Just adds a super cool feel. And you can do that a lot with one shots. You can't really do it too much with like VSTs unless there's like a portamento option. But with one shots, you get just a really cool texture in my opinion. And if you guys don't know how to do that, basically it's this little button up here. You click that, and then when you place a note, that acts as like your transitioning note or your slide note. So this C will now slide to whatever note you put that effect on. For this one shot, I'm using the Help You lead, and this is again from the Bass One Genesis one shot kit. Something I want to talk about really quick too is because that the original MIDI was so complicated, it's nice to have these extra layers in here that are either super simple and repetitive or just like something really catchy. You don't want it to kind of overshadow the like original pluck MIDI that you laid down. Otherwise it just kind of defeats the point and it all ends up just sounding like a bunch of noise. Next I added this little like pad kind of vocal one shot. This is from me and Gateway's whiteout sound kit. It's called the Pad for Real in the vocal folder. And again, I just added some sparse notes to kind of give it a little bit of background texture. Something to point out too on this one shot is that the release is turned all the way off, so the notes don't bleed over each other. This was kind of intentional. I kind of liked the way it sounded almost like robotic, how the notes just stop immediately. I didn't really want it to overlap each other because it kind of created that nice like swell noise into each note. Then the next thing I added was this string, and this is the Delicate Pits from a Cons kit. This is from the Trap Ties Volume 2. And I just basically took the same chords as before and just kind of chopped them up. So they're kind of hitting at like increments instead of just like drawn out notes. This also acts as another really good just background kind of melodic layer, adds a little bit of rhythm to the melody. All right, then the last thing we added was this Dior string, and this is from the Shire Crest one-shot kit by Pilgrim. And these are the notes that I laid down, but I ended up adding this shaper box preset from a Kersey and Chrome kit, and this one was from Chrome. It's called Titus V2, and all I did was just turn the noise effect off, and this is what we are left with. Really cool, just kind of like lead texture. Instead of having like a solid lead that just goes throughout the whole thing, or maybe like coming up with your own pattern, you can just use simple notes like this and then add a bunch of effects to it to kind of chop it up or add like granular stuff to it. It can really just give you a cool effect that you might not really be able to achieve with just the MIDI notes. All right, so that's all of the layers for the melody. The only other thing I did was I took all of the sounds, rendered them out to an audio file, and then pitched that all the way down. And I used that for the intro. So I can play that too. If that's what this sounds like here. This is a little like thing that I always forget that you can do. Like, it's so simple, but I feel like my brain doesn't really go to this very often. But just like simply pitching stuff down or putting like halftime or gross beat on something can give you like an entire new section of a melody. All right, so this is the entire melody now with both of those sections. So yeah, just super catchy melody, very bouncy, melodic. But yeah, now I'm gonna show you guys how I did the drums for the beat. All right, so we got the loop pulled up in a different FLP. I kept the BPM at 140, but I just wanted to do the drums in a different FLP since I made these kind of on different days. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, we used a lot of sounds from the new Reservoir Drum Kit. So you guys will get to see a little sampling of that today. We used a total of 9 different drum sounds for this beat. And the first thing we got is this blast clap. Then we are using the air hi-hat. For this hi-hat pattern, I wanted to add a couple of rolls here and there just for some interest, but I also wanted to keep it a little bit spacey to kind of complement the like bounce of the melody. And the Reservoir Drum Kit also does come with a lot of different midis, specifically melody midis and hi-hat midis, both of which this hi-hat midi and the melody midi for the loop are in the kit. So if you guys wanted to recreate this melody or, you know, make something of your own, you can definitely do that with the kit. All right, then we got this little gunshot sound effects. This is the Shoota sound effect, and that just hits at the beginning of every 8 bars. Then we got a little accent clap. This is the mini clap, and this plays just at the end of every 4 bars. And then we got the classic like crash that you hear in a lot of Uzi songs. And this just plays on the 1, and this is the loyal crash. Then we got the sunset open hat, and this just plays twice every 4 bars. Then we got a little snare here. This is the Fry Guy snare, and this just hits at the end of the first 2 bars. And then last thing we got is this sleigh perk, and this you hear a lot in Uzi beats as well, just like a classic rim, but this hits right after the 3. Yeah, and then the last thing we got is the 808, and this is the 2021 808. And again, I just use the same root notes as the MIDI, and this is the bass pattern that I laid out. Usually I'm not a fan of using like punchy Z808s, but this one I felt really fit with this beat. And also a lot of the Uzi songs that I hear use that sort of Z808. And this is just kind of like a similar style to that. That's it for this entire beat. I'll play you guys a little preview now, and then we'll switch over to the next beat. So yeah, super melodic, definitely kind of that like older Uzi vibe. I'd love to hear him get on stuff like this again. This is definitely like one of my favorite types of Uzi songs. But yeah, all right, let's go over to the second beat now. All right, so this one has a lot more melody sounds. These futuristic glow beats always have just like a ton of different layers. They're pretty crazy, but they're very, very fun to make if you guys have never made them. To start things off with this one, we are again at 140 BPM. And I think again, pretty much I used one shots for this entire beat. and they are all from A-Shark kits. So if you guys don't have any A-Shark kits and you want to make any kind of glow, futuristic glow, glory, trap beats, whatever, his kits are my go-to by far. I use them for anything glow related. They have pretty much every like essential sound you need, and I use his analogy banks all the time too. So huge shout out to A-Shark. But yeah, this first sound we got is this Sonics strings, basically just a string preset, using the classic like stab melody for these futuristic beats. We're working in the scale of C minor, and again, basically I just built chords out of these bass notes. Then we got this little like pulsating pad one shot. It's called Blu-rays, and this is the MIDI that I laid down for it. On majority of these presets too, I just have an EQ that's cutting the lows out to make room for the bass later. Then we got this little lead, this kind of like theremin lead. This is called the theremin. On that one, we got just a little bit of reverb, turning the mix way down and the delay down a little bit. Then we added another brass layer, and this is the brass one shot. And this is a really key aspect to these beats, to kind of have these sort of stuttering brass top line patterns. They just add a lot of like anthemic feel to the melody. And if you guys want your one shots to sound like this too, just come over to this little ADSR tab and then make everything look like this. And basically with these settings, it makes it so the one shot stops immediately when the MIDI note stops. So if you make these super short, you're just gonna get these super little like short stab one shots. Then we got this bass from another A-Shark kit. This is the Out of Pocket Reese. And again, this just follows the root notes of the original MIDI. Then we got the classic glow, like kind of whistling lead. For this one, I used the technique with the glide notes again. Just kind of added them on these sections here as, again, just like little transitions, and then just kind of add a cool little texture. Then obviously we add the tubular bell. This is one from my boy Santone's kit, just called the Yeet Bell. You can pretty much use any tubular bell. They're in like every kit and every VST ever. But this one just hits on the A sharp 4 times. Then we got another pizzicato like string stab. This again is from A-Shark, and it just follows the original MIDI. Then we got one of my favorite sounds to use in any futuristic glow beat, and this is the G-Feld stab. This is also from an A-Shark kit. I believe this is from Evolution 1, but I use this in like every single futuristic glow loop. It just adds so much character. And you can pretty much add that to the root notes or whatever like your bass notes are hitting on, and it will sound great every time. Then we got something to just kind of accent the lower end. It's not super subby though, so it doesn't really clash with the bass, but it's just kind of like a low brass. And this is the Moral Support brass, again from A-Shark kit. All right, then only 2 more sounds. I know this is a lot of melody, but 2 more sounds. We got this first one being the high piano. And this just adds a really cool kind of melodic element to the loop. So it's not just like straight orchestral instruments. This was the pattern that I came up with, and all I did was add some Fruity Delay 3 on this one to just kind of make the notes ring out a little bit more. And also added the chorus. I just used this Chorus June 6 plugin. This really acts as just like a nice kind of high-end accent melody to go along with like the leads and stuff. And then we added the classic Electro Stars little lead. This again is from the A-Shark kit, and I just kind of added it a bunch in here. It's maybe a little bit overkill, but I thought it sounded cool. So yeah, all together with the arrangement and everything, this is how the loop is sounding now. So yeah, now we can move over to the drums for this one. All right, so these are all the drum sounds we got. We got a total of 7. Again, all these are coming from my Reservoir Drum Kit. First up we got is this War Clap. Then we got the hi-hat, and I'm using the treetop hi-hat. And again, use the similar technique as the last beat where I just kind of had the notes spaced out. Leave a lot of pauses. It just adds a lot of extra bounce. And you can see I left spaces for wherever like the claps were hitting. So nothing's like overlapping. Again, creates just like extra bounce. Then I got this Loyal Crash again. Like I said, this gets used on pretty much like every Uzi beat. Then we got this other open hat. This is the Traps Giving open hat. Then we got this A snare hitting at this little section by the 4. And then we got just like the classic Zay chant Vox, and this just hits at this little section for every bar. Yeah, and then the last thing we got is the 808, and I'm using the Gate 808. This is just a nice little like trap 808, super punchy, but doesn't really like have a lot of release to it. And again, I just use the same root notes as the original MIDI. And yeah, that's really the whole beat. As far as like arrangement goes, for this one was a little bit more thoughtful than the other one because these glow beats usually start off with like just the 808, and then I had this crash also in there. I noticed Uzi has that in a lot of his like futuristic glow type songs where the beginnings will just start off super kind of like not bland, but basically like just the 808s hitting, which causes it to kind of drop a lot harder when all of the drums end up coming in. But yeah, other than that, I just kind of cut out little sections here and there, added some little beat pauses and whatnot. But yeah, that's it for this one. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know if you guys want to see more of these kind of like dual style type of beats. I could definitely make more than one beat for a video. If you guys want to see that, let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Reservoir Drum Kit is out now if you guys want to go get that. Yeah, that's going to do it for me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.